as grips in the 30s and 40s. The back end of the VW is very distinguishable by that bug-eye back window, and that was known as a bug-eye VW. And they only made those a few years, and then they went to one piece of glass. So this particular model is very much sought after with the original bug-eye back windows. This is a 1956 Chevy Nomad. Now, traditionally through the years, Nomads or station wagons, as they've been known through the years, have not been that popular unless you were a surfer, and that's all you would want. But in 1956, Chevrolet came out with their leading edge station wagon called the Nomad. It can be recognized with the horizontal stripes or ridges in the top of the car going across the back of the car, and the slanted rear end. This was very popular in the 60s and 70s, and it's getting even more popular today, restoring. This particular version has a very large, big cubic inch V8 in it, which is a muscle car, but the interior and exterior is pretty much stock. The only difference between this car and the ones that the kids had in the 50s, the kids used to take out the back seats, I guess so they could study or something. This Chevy is a big block Chevy. It has dual 4-barrel carburetors, high lift cam. It's bored and stroked. Very strong engine. Certainly not what came in when it was stock, but this is what a lot of people love to do, put the big engines in them. And notice the very unusual dual 4-barrel carburetor air cleaner, which is very unusual. And they put on the cars in those days. This brings us to the fun part of my collection, muscle cars. Muscle cars were those cars primarily built in the late 50s through the 70s to through the 60s, 70s, and they were red. Everybody loved red muscle cars. This particular car we're in front of right is a Dodge Super B 6-pack, and this was it at the drag strip. In those days, you could buy a brand new car, and Chrysler was the leader in muscle cars with their famous Hemi engines, their 6-pack engines. This particular one has a very big Hemi 6-pack engine in it. It was designed and built to drag race. You could buy this directly from the dealer in those days, as you see it right here, with the large intake hood, the large V8 engine, the Hemi engine. Everything about this car is totally stock, and you could buy it right from the dealer for about $3,500 to $4,000 maybe. And this was kind of the vanguard of Chrysler's Hemi cars. As we look down the line, behind it is a Oldsmobile 442 with a 455 Olds in it. Behind that is a Dodge Coronet with a big block Hemi in it. And behind that is a 69 Chevelle with a big block 396 V8. All very stalwart muscle cars. Next is this 1972 Oldsmobile 442 Coupe. This is an original numbers matching car, an absolutely beautiful factory car. 455 cubic inches, 400 horsepower plus, numbers matching. This was a grand champion Oldsmobile in the Oldsmobile Club of America 3 times running. It is gorgeous. The next car is a Dodge Coronet. It was put out in 1956. Has a huge 426 cubic inch Hemi in it, 425 horsepower, very, very fast, 4-speed, fully documented original car. It's in the Chrysler registry as 100% original. This is a 1967 Chevy SS Supersport. 396 cubic inch engine, 350 horsepower, automatic transmission. This is as good as it gets, and it's a 2-door red hardtop. We love that red. This particular car just took best of show in the muscle car class at the Concours d'Elegance held in Palos Verdes, California. All matching numbers, an absolute beautiful car. This is a 396 cubic inch, 350 horsepower Chevy Super Sport with automatic transmission, matching numbers. This is as good as it got in 1967. Topping off my collection of Corvettes is this beautiful 1998 pace car driven by Parnelli Jones at Indy 500. It has a remarkable paint job. It has a wild interior. These cars, this particular one, I think they made 6 of these, in which Parnelli drove one of them. They're highly modified. When General Motors and Ford and Chrysler do pace cars, they don't really tell you how much horsepower there is, but they soup them up. They have to be very fast because they have to get on the track fast, they have to get off the track fast, and they got to be able to kind of keep up with the big boys when they're starting off. And this is an example. This particular one, as I say, was driven by Parnelli Jones in '98, as witnessed by his signature and date on the dash. Okay, let's hear it for Camaro. I know I haven't talked much about Camaros. I have several of them. This particular one is a 1969 pace car Camaro. I'm told there were 5 of these made, and I would hope so too. That orange upholstery is just unbelievable. But this one has a big bored out and stroked 396 V8 in it. Like Corvette, they don't like to talk about pace cars, but they're highly modified. This one probably has well over 500 horsepower in it. And they have to do that to keep up with the pace cars of the Indy 500. They've got to get out on the track fast, get up to speed, and get off the track fast. So this is one of those beasts. Actually, it's a lot of fun to drive if you can get by that bright orange color interior. Let's skip about 15 years now. From the mid-'70s up until the mid-'90s, they were pretty lackluster years. The manufacturers were all concentrating on gas mileage, small blocks, K cars. It went on and on. So it was pretty bad for the muscle car guys in those years. Then came along the Dodge Viper, which was an absolute sensation from the second it was out. It was a 500 horsepower, 500 cubic inch, 500 foot-pounds of torque in this little tiny light car. I bought one. I was lucky enough to get one of the first ones out, and they were a bomb. They still are a bomb. They just really, really motivate. The problem is the first ones didn't have any top. They had a little canvas thing that would blow off at 80 miles an hour. It was totally useless, but they were sure beautiful. And this started the revolution. All the other manufacturers awakened, and Chrysler was good at that. Chrysler brought out a lot of icons that are now the watchword in racing, and this Viper started it all. With the advent of the famous Viper, the car industry awakened, and notably among those cars made right after the turn of 2000 is this GT40. This was a Ford reproduction car of a famous Ford that they raced, the GT40 racing cars in the 60s. And it was called the GT40 because it was 40 inches tall. It was that simple. It was no great mystery. This particular one is the first year they reintroduced the GT40. It has a huge 5.4 liter, 550 horsepower supercharged V8, which pushes it at 200 miles an hour quite comfortably. This was the first of a whole onslaught, as I say. All the manufacturers now are coming out. The big deal now is 600 horsepower. Everybody wants 600 horsepower. This is Ford's 501 cubic inch, 550 horsepower, big block V8 with a big, huge supercharger right up on top. This is a really, really beautiful car to drive. It purrs like a kitten at low speeds, and it really runs at high speeds. The engine is all aluminum and sleeved heads. It is a engine to be reckoned with. Well, here we are back to Corvette again, not to be outdone by the GT40s and the rest of the Fords. Chevrolet, as everyone knows, has really come back into racing again. This is